Welcome to the Fibromyalgia Podcast. I'm Tammy Stacklehouse, fibromyalgia coach, author, and founder of the International Fibromyalgia Coaching Institute. The goal of this podcast is to empower you with access to the dream team of experts and coaches I've discovered are key to living the fibro life you love. From the comfort of your own home, and maybe even your pajamas, I'll help you take back control of your life and health. To help out with fibro fog, I always include full show notes and additional resources at fibromyalgiapodcast.com. Welcome to the Fibromyalgia Podcast. I'm your coach, Tammy Stacklehouse, and this is episode 3 of our special Be a Coach series. In this series, I answer questions about our Certified Fibromyalgia Advisor class and what it takes to become a Certified Fibromyalgia Coach. In our first episode, I talked about what a Certified Fibromyalgia Advisor is and what a Certified Fibromyalgia Coach is, and episode 2 was all about who makes a good coach and who is better suited to be an advisor. I also cover what you need and what you don't need to become a fibromyalgia coach. Now, today we're going to talk about why. But before I get to that, I do want to remind you, this is a special series, and it's designed for those who are curious about our training programs or about becoming a coach. Now, if that's not you, absolutely no worries at all. Just skip this episode, and we'll catch you back here next week with a regular episode. Of course, if you're curious, keep listening because this is for you. Now, as I said, today is all about the why. Why would someone want to become a certified fibromyalgia coach? Why does the world need fibro coaches? And most importantly, why should you consider becoming a certified fibromyalgia coach? Fibromyalgia can feel like a very long taking away of things. One thing many of us lose is our ability to contribute to the world around us, to make a difference, have a purpose, or even just, contribute to our family's finances or make a little money of our own to even buy somebody a gift. Now, fibromyalgia really can create an identity crisis of sorts, something that makes us wonder who we are now that we can't do the things that we used to do. And this can be a really, really hard thing to face. It can also be an opportunity to create a new identity for ourselves, one that we may like even better. A great example of this is my interview with Ann Garner-Coulter for episode 99. Ann describes how fibromyalgia helped her uncover who she was meant to be. Those are her words. Becoming a certified fibromyalgia coach and helping others feel better is part of that process for Ann. When what she used to do became impossible to do, she figured out what she was really finally meant to be. So let's start at the beginning. Does the world even need fibro coaches? The answer is yes. Yes, it does. And I'm going to tell you why. The National Fibromyalgia and Chronic Pain Association estimates 2 to 4% of the world's population has been diagnosed with fibromyalgia. 80% of those are women. This means that 1 in 21 women are diagnosed with fibromyalgia. It's around 1 in 83 men. The United Nations has estimated that the world's population would reach 8 billion here in 2022. That means 240 million people in the world and 10 million people here in the US have fibromyalgia. And thanks to COVID, we're just going to see these numbers grow. The largest study so far, as I'm recording this, on long COVID was published in September 2022. They found that 27% of people diagnosed with COVID in this study continued to have symptoms after 60 days, which, by the way, is the definition of long COVID or long haulers, is having those symptoms 60 days after you've been sick and tested positive. Other studies looking at the intersection between long COVID and fibromyalgia found that 30% of long haulers also met the diagnostic criteria for fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia is already one of the top 10 diagnoses made in primary care. And this is just going to increase with long COVID. And yet, doctors are not taught how to effectively treat fibromyalgia in medical school. Fibromyalgia is usually mentioned as part of a general class on chronic pain. And at most, medical students might have a 1-hour class devoted to fibromyalgia. Keep in mind that the diagnostic criteria for fibromyalgia was established in 1990. If your doctor graduated prior to that, they may have no training at all because that diagnostic criteria wasn't established yet. And of course, on top of all of this, there just aren't enough doctors. In 2014, MD Magazine published an article titled, "Who Really Treats Chronic Pain?" In the article, they estimated that there were, at most, only 4,700 pain specialists here in the United States. That averages out to over 2,000 fibromyalgia patients per pain specialist. And that's assuming they treat no other types of pain, which of course they do. That number, I'm sure, has gotten worse since COVID. I know a lot of doctors and providers that have decided to do something else in the era of COVID. And if you've ever had trouble finding someone to help you with your fibromyalgia, this is why. There just aren't enough doctors. And the doctors we do have just haven't been trained to treat fibromyalgia. It's not really their fault. They haven't been taught. So there absolutely is a need for somebody to know what fibromyalgia is and how to manage it effectively. We've got to have someone who knows how to help people get better. But you already know this, right? I'm sure you've struggled to find a doctor who knew what to do with you, as fibro patients were often seen as the problem child or a difficult patient. And it's because your doctors just don't know. So of course it's a problem and difficult for them. Yes, a certified fibromyalgia coach is not a doctor. You are correct. We cannot diagnose, we can't prescribe, we can't treat your fibromyalgia, but we can educate you. We can educate your providers. We know fibromyalgia, we've lived it. In addition to having direct, personal life experience with fibromyalgia, our coaches have had more fibromyalgia-specific training than probably all of your doctors. By the time someone graduates as a certified fibromyalgia coach, they've spent more than 200 hours learning about fibromyalgia and how to help someone with fibromyalgia improve their symptoms. Compare that to the 1 hour your doctor may or may not have had. As you can see, a certified fibromyalgia coach can be a huge help in filling the gap that we have in fibromyalgia knowledge and care management and treatment. To quote Dr. Ginevra Lipton, fibro specialist, patient, and author of the Fibro Manual, she says, "Successful treatment of any chronic illness requires a large component of education on self-management skills. In an ideal world, every fibromyalgia patient's healthcare team would include a fibromyalgia coach or advisor along with a medical professional. Ideally, these coaches and advisors will act as patient advocates who can guide and teach other patients in self-care, what to ask their doctors, and to offer emotional support." We need fibromyalgia coaches, and we need a lot more of them if we're going to help the 240 million people in the world who are suffering with fibromyalgia. I cannot help them all myself. It's why I started teaching others how to do what I do, why I wrote my books, and why I have this podcast, right? There's only so much of me to go around. So why should you consider becoming a fibromyalgia coach? Why would anybody really consider it? Being a coach, specifically a fibromyalgia coach, is my secret weapon against fibromyalgia. Well, I say secret, but I tell everybody about it, so maybe it's not so secret, right? Having a chronic illness, having something like fibromyalgia is a full-time job. There are no vacations. Have you noticed that? You can't just decide not to deal with your fibro for a week or even a weekend and take some time off. Well, I guess you can, but there are consequences, right? If you really want to feel your best, you have to do the things you need to do every single day. And because there are no vacations, it can be hard to keep going. It's hard to keep doing all the things you need to do to manage your pain and manage your fatigue. It's hard to go to bed on time, right? Or is that just me? It's not? Please tell me it's not. As a coach who exclusively helps people manage their fibromyalgia, every day I am reminded of what I need to do to feel my best. Those treatments and strategies, they are always top of mind for me. As I'm coaching somebody else, I am reminding myself, as the words come out of my mouth, I am reminding myself what it is that I need to do too. My clients, my students, and you are also why I want to feel my best. I can't help anybody if I'm knocked out by a fibro flare. Right now, my fibromyalgia is in remission. But if it's not someday, that means I can do less to help people like you. The better I feel, the more people I can help. And you are no different, my friend. The better you feel, the more people you can help, and the bigger difference you can make in the world, and in your own life and in your family's life. Let's be honest here. We either have to walk the talk, right? We have to do what we're telling other people to do, or we're a hypocrite, right? We could tell our clients to do one thing while we go do another, but I don't know about you. I just could not deal with that lack of integrity. That keeps us on the straight and narrow, having to walk our talk, keeps us on the wagon, so to speak, right? Now, as a coach, specifically as a certified fibromyalgia coach, you'll also have access to the support of a community of people who understand. I was laughing earlier. My assistant and I both forgot to do something that the other person needed. She said that she loved that I understand and that she would have been fired long ago at a normal job for forgetting stuff like this. I cracked up and I replied and told her that I would have been fired as a boss a long time ago because of forgetting things like that. How would it feel for you to be surrounded by people who actually get you? What would it be like to have somebody understand that, it was just brain fog? I'm not a slacker. It's just fibro brain. And that's why I missed the deadline. That's why being a coach, specifically a fibro coach, is part of my secret arsenal on feeling my best. And being a certified fibromyalgia coach can be your secret weapon too. Being a coach, like I said, can keep you focused on improving your own fibromyalgia. The continuing education classes and credits that we offer help to keep you up to date with your fibro knowledge and other conditions and treatments that might help you feel even better yet. Being a coach keeps you focused on the things you know you need to do. And our alumni community of other coaches support you when you struggle. If you've got a servant's heart, if you prefer to focus on doing things for other people ahead of yourself, then being a coach is actually an amazing way to improve your fibromyalgia. You have to take care of yourself so that you can take care of your clients, which gives you an added reason to keep focusing on your own healing. You're going to be an example. You're going to need to show up to take care of your people, right? You have to go to bed on time so that your brain fog is clear in the morning. You have to take a break and rest and get up and stretch so that you can show up and do good work for your clients. You have too much integrity to not do what you're telling your clients to do, and so you do it, right? Another thing I love about being a coach is that I get to be my own boss. Now, granted, this is true for lots of jobs out there, right? Where you can create really any kind of business for yourself. And all of our coaches are independent businesses. So that means you get to decide when, where, and how you work. You set your own work hours, how much you get paid, and even get to decide who you work with. You have complete control over your deadlines and your work hours. You also have complete control over how much you work. You want 1 client a week? Awesome. You want 10 clients a week? That's cool too. It's all up to you. Now, at some point here, you've probably thought, but is there room for me? You keep making new coaches. At what point will there be too many? Are there enough clients for me to have some too? And I want to remind you of those numbers that I said at the beginning. 240 million fibromyalgia patients in the world and 10 million fibro patients here in the US alone. We need you. We are nowhere near the point where those millions and millions of patients have enough coaches. We're just not there. And one more thing. I know you're thinking, how am I going to get paid? Maybe you're thinking that there's a lot of fibro patients and a lot of them can't work. So how does that work? And it is true. About half of all fibro patients are unable to work. This is based on a survey of over 2,500 fibro patients. And because of this, a lot of the work that we do as coaches is on a pro bono basis. This podcast, for example, is free to anyone who wants to listen. There's no charge at all to listen to any of the episodes. I give my books away for free. I do workshops, speaking events, include information on social media, all at no charge. And this is the same for the coaches that I teach as well. A certain amount of everyone's work is really giving back to the community in free services or scholarships. Just like a lawyer, you'll have paying clients and you'll have pro bono or scholarship clients. The paying clients essentially pay for the work you do for free, giving back to the community. You have to have both. Because this is a business, right? It's not a charity. We're not going out and doing fundraising so that we can then provide services. We might give away a lot, but at the end of the day, that free work has to be balanced out with an income, right? There's expenses that we have. This podcast costs money to produce, and that money has to come from somewhere, right? It's part of what my paying clients pay for. That same survey that I mentioned earlier, the survey of 2,500 fibro patients, in that survey, they discovered that, yes, half the patients were unable to work. 20%, however, had a household income of at least $80,000 a year, and 10% had an income of $100,000 or more. Now, that might sound like not a lot, 10%, but using the same statistics as we used earlier, this means that 48 million fibromyalgia patients have a household income over $80,000 a year. We need you. As I said earlier, all of our coaches, they are independent. Everyone sets their own rates. Everyone decides what they want to sell. Of course, I give guidance on this in the Certified Fibromyalgia Coach training, but everyone ultimately decides what is best for them, their situation, and the people that they help. But I know you want numbers, right? You want an example. So I'm going to do that. To give you an example, a brand new student generally starts off charging around $200 to work with someone for 3 months or 9 sessions. This varies a lot depending on what other types of experience that particular coach has. That would be the rate that somebody would charge if they had no prior experience at all. Someone who comes into the training program who's a nurse or a psychotherapist or some other type of healthcare provider obviously is going to start at a higher rate. By the time they graduate, students usually have increased their experience and their rates up to about $1,800 for 3 months. Certified fibromyalgia coaches, of course, begin at that rate and go up from there to based on their experience and expertise. But what could you make? Because that's really what you want to know, right? And don't worry, I got you. Now, the amount that you could earn working as a coach, of course, is based on a bunch of factors. Things like how many clients do you even want, right? If you want a lot of clients, then that's different than if you only want one or two. It's based on how many hours you want to work or how many hours you can work. I have a lot of people who start off already working another job who are transitioning to coaching full time. And so what they make as a coach kind of transitions with the number of hours that they can work building their new business. How much you make is also influenced by how good you are at sales and marketing. Of course, it's like any business, right? You could open a restaurant on the street, but if you don't tell anybody you're open, then you're not going to get as many clients as if you actively are doing marketing. This is part of what we teach in the Certified Fibromyalgia Coach program to a certain extent. To give you an idea, here are a couple examples using some really simple numbers to make the math easy. The first scenario is a student who gets one new client a month and who charges $1,000 for 3 months of coaching. That student would make $1,000 a month and would only spend 3 hours a week coaching. As a student, of course, they'll have their student things to do, right? Coming to class and homework and things like that. But as far as actually coaching clients, they'd be spending 3 hours a week at most because they have 3 clients at most. We also only do that for 3 weeks, and then we take a week off for integration, for implementation, for doing admin work. So it's possible for students in our Certified Fibromyalgia Coach program to earn back their total tuition before they graduate with these paying clients. Here's a second example. Now, this is an experienced coach who has completed their certification, who has some experience. This coach gets 2 new clients each month and charges $2,000 for 3 months. In this scenario, they would make $4,000 a month and spend 6 hours a week coaching 6 clients at most. And again, that 1 week off a month for implementation and integration. Again, these are just examples. You are the boss. You may charge more or less. You may work more or less. You may take that week off or not. It's all flexible and you get to decide all of it. Now, if you want to talk specific numbers in your situation, of course, just reach out to me. You can schedule a consultation and we can walk through it all. You can also just email me. Just go to fibromyalgiapodcast.com and click on the Ask the Coach link, and you can send me a message that way. For me, coaching is the perfect fibro-friendly job. When I started coaching, I had 1 or 2 clients at a time and only worked 1 or 2 hours a week. And let's be real here. Most of those coaching calls I did sitting in my bed with my laptop and a cell phone and a cat cuddled up next to me. And, as I began to feel better, of course, I added more clients, I added more activities, I went to networking events, I started blogging. Eventually, I created this podcast, wrote 2 books, all kinds of stuff. But I was always in control of how quickly my business grew. And of course, there were times where, oops, that's too much. I had complete control of being able to move things around, cancel things, reschedule things so that I could get my balance back, so I could get back to feeling good. Today, I get to work from home. I sit in my comfy chair in my comfy clothes, usually with a cat on my lap. I work with my body to feel my best instead of trying to work in spite of my fibro body. I would never want to do another job or work for anyone else. So let me recap. Why should you consider becoming a certified fibromyalgia coach? Number one, our fibro community needs more coaches desperately. There are 240 million people who are trying to find help, and with some training, you could help them. Number two, as a coach, your fibromyalgia will continue to improve. I would not be in remission today if I had not become a coach. It is what has kept me on track, given me new ideas to try, and to just keep improving. Number three, you'll have continuing education classes to help keep you learning and growing, improving your fibromyalgia knowledge, and really helping you grow as a person. Number four, you'll become part of a supportive community, a group that truly understands you and can encourage you when you want to quit that full-time job that is fibromyalgia. We can keep you going in those times where it just feels like too much. Number five, helping others can give new purpose and meaning to your life, helping you feel like you're making a difference in the world and that you have that purpose. Number six, you get to be your own boss. That means you get to decide when, where, and how you work. You set your own rates, you work from home or not, take the days off or not when you need them, and you don't have to ask anybody or get permission. You can schedule your doctor visits without having to go to HR or your boss and ask for more time off. You get to decide all of it. Number seven, you get to contribute to your family's income or simply have more shoe money, as one of my coaches calls it, because it's extra money she can spend on shoes. And number eight, I truly believe this is the perfect fibro-friendly job. You only work 1 hour at a time because your coaching calls with your clients are only an hour at most. You get a break after every hour of working. You can sit in your bed or your comfy chair or on your couch or wherever you want with your computer, with a phone and a cat on your lap. Well, I guess the cat is optional. You could have a dog on your lap or, whatever. But honestly, you get to do whatever you need to do to keep your body happy while you work. You schedule your rest periods, your break periods, your get up and move around periods, your snacks, all of it gets scheduled around when you work, and you get to work when you want. Now, if you're one of my detailed people who wants to dig in, wants more information, links to the statistics I've talked about, and all of that, the easiest way is for you to go out and download a free copy of my book, The Fibromyalgia Coach. All of the statistics and articles I mentioned today, except those fibro stats because they're so recent, they're all in that book. The Fibromyalgia Coach the book is also a little bit of a workbook, honestly. I outline in the book 8 key questions to help you determine if a particular career is a good fit for you. I walk through questions to help you determine what your physical, mental, and social needs are. Do you want to be around people? Are you sensitive to sounds and light? Do you need frequent rest breaks? These are all things the book will help you figure out. There are even questions to help you determine how you measure success. Do you consider a good return on your investment of time, money, and energy? How important is that? And what do you consider to be a good return on your investment? I personally have always measured my success in terms of helping people and changing lives. Money's good too, don't get me wrong, but if I made a lot of money and didn't help anybody, that would be a failure in my book. So how do you measure success? The book will help you kind of figure all of that out. So to get a free copy, get a free download of The Fibromyalgia Coach, just go to fibromyalgiapodcast.com and click on books in the main menu. You'll be able to choose either or both of my books from there and get a free copy. Now, as I wrap all of this up, I want you to close your eyes for a quick second. Imagine, what would it look like to create the perfect job for you? A career where you're playing to your strengths, not trying to overcome your weaknesses. A career where you keep your body happy and you work when and how it's best for you. Imagine that everyone you work with is someone you love, truly love to work with. Imagine that there's a community of people who are there to love and support you and help you be the best you possible. Imagine that you do all of that and you feel better at the same time. Imagine actually having it all: a fulfilling career helping others, making money for your family, or even just fun money for yourself, and feeling better every single day. This is not a fantasy. It is actually possible. I feel better today than I did when I started coaching. You can go back and you can listen to interviews with our coaches. There have been several of them. They have all said the same thing. I feel better today than when I started. It's totally possible. If you want to become a certified fibromyalgia coach, the first step is our advisor class. That is where you're going to learn all that fibro info. That's where we start with everybody. It's also the best way I know to improve fibro symptoms. Our advisor students, on average, improve their symptoms by almost 50% in just 3 months. Just think, you could feel very different in just a few short months. Now, our next class starts in just a couple weeks, and we do keep these classes small and intimate so that it's easy to ask questions and get the individual attention you need. So spaces, of course, in the class are limited. Now, you can learn more. You can apply to join us online. Just go to beafibrocoach.com. That's B spelled out E-E, a fibrocoach.com. In the next episode of our special series, I'm going to cover the how. I'm going to dive into the specifics and the practical bits of exactly how to become a certified fibromyalgia coach, how the advisor and the coach classes are structured, what the steps are to apply and enroll, and all that good stuff. See you back here next time. And that wraps up another episode of the Fibromyalgia Podcast. I'm your coach, Tammy Stacklehouse. For daily doses of hope, inspiration, and practical advice, come hang out with me on Facebook. Visit facebook.com/fibrocoach to find my personal coaching page and connect with me directly. To find the show notes, additional resources, or to schedule a consultation with me or one of my coaches, visit fibromyalgiapodcast.com.